Hi everyone, I'm Roy Chua, Principal Analyst at AvidThink, a research and advisory firm covering infrastructure technologies. And we've been looking at the telco transformation, the infrastructure transformation particularly, for over 10 years now, starting with the NFV movement. And of late, there's been a lot of talk about telco clouds and telco platforms and cloud platforms. And there's been some challenges that have been put up by some of those in industry with regard to the movement to cloud disaggregation and containerization along with virtualization. Given that security is a key topic here in the industry, we thought we'd talk to some of the experts out there who actually know what you're talking about. And joining me in the studio, we have John Carse, who is CISO of Rakuten Mobile and Rakuten Symphony. So the CSP, the communication service providers worldwide, are eager to roll out telco cloud platforms in service of their various workloads, especially with 5G. The 5G core and the virtual and maybe open RAN are expected to run on cloud platforms. We keep hearing this refrain from a number of industry participants around the lack of security. Is that a real problem, or are these comments self-serving? And maybe is this due to them not fully understanding the situation? What are your thoughts, John?
Just to be clear, my background hasn't been telecom. My background over the last 20 years of securing systems has mostly been in the military, big finance, and big tech. Now, coming into telecom, looking at what we're trying to secure, my thoughts were, I've seen this before. There's nothing new here. So when I'm thinking about security, is there a real problem here? Yes, there is a problem. However, we know how to solve it. We know how to solve these problems. We've been solving these problems in cloud environments for almost 15 years now. So I think we know how to solve it outside of telecom.
Yeah, I think that your background is pretty compelling, right? That's military and finance. Those are pretty important, critical industries as well.
Yeah, I would say that now whether the comments are self-serving or not, I don't know. I think that with respect to being self-serving, I think that people are concerned about the security of their communications and how we do that in a way that allows people to communicating wherever they need to communicate with their mobile phones and such. And I think the cloud technologies are new to telecom, but again, we have been securing these things outside of telecom for some years. Is it from not understanding the situation? I think the issues become less about how not understanding versus not coming to consensus on how to do it. I think it's more of a consensus problem than it is a actual security problem.
As you point out, there are security issues. But the situation we're in telecoms is not necessarily maybe worse than where we were before. And this is something that other industries already know how to mitigate, at least in their situation. And so maybe there are some elements of telco that are probably a little different that maybe you've learned, and we can talk a bit about that as well. But in the meantime, what's your suggestion to the CSPs on engaging and embracing the telco cloud platforms for 5G workloads today? I know some of them already have. Some of them are still reticent about doing that.
I think you're right. I think that there are telcos already embracing 5G and deploying 5G workloads in the cloud. And I think they should keep going. They should keep doing it. Now, that being said, I do believe that they do need to have an understanding of their particular risks in their environment or in their particular cases that they're operating in. Some folks are doing private cloud, some people are doing public cloud, some folks are doing hybrid cloud. Those all have different risk profiles and threat profiles that they need to consider as they roll out their technologies. And as you said, these profiles aren't any different than what we were doing in 4G either, right? 4G had as many or more problems as 5G does. It's just people were more comfortable with virtualized systems because virtualized were only one step away from a data center environment. So it seemed very familiar. And then as we go from data center environments, bare metal systems into virtualized environments, very similar cases. When you go into containerized workloads, it starts feeling different. But I think if you step back, you'd look at it and think, oh, you know what? This is something I've seen before. It's just named a bit differently. And we know how to secure this.
That's good advice, and I think it's also probably reassuring to folks about hearing you say that someone who with a lot of experience in other fields that are viewed as critical industries. Now, certainly Rakuten Mobile's done just that. You guys have rolled out 5G on cloud platform, right? And have all those DevOps and other cloud native processes and practices in place. Now, given your experience and recent experience in doing that, would you be able and open to sharing your learnings? And are there some concrete steps that other CSPs that are maybe embarking on this journey, or perhaps somewhere in the middle of that journey? What would you share with them?
So at Rakuten, we have a very diverse infrastructure that we deploy so that we can deliver services across Japan. Given our particular design and how we run workloads in our environment, we have some core practices that we need to consider. Some of them are around operational issues, such as who has access to the network, which we try to minimize human access to our network as much as possible. But when we have systems that are coming onto our network, machines that are, or computers or applications, we need to ensure that we understand who that machine is, right? So we need to do really good identity access management for machine-based systems as well, or application-based systems. So we also have a number of applications that are running on our network that we need to secure their API also. So given those big threat vectors, who gets on our network and how do we secure the control plane and the management plane, we have some suggestions on how we do it at Rakuten. So what we try to do from a Rakuten perspective is really adhere to zero trust principles. And this goes into how it is that we microsegment and nanosegment our environments, and where applications or machines or people can access our systems. And that allows us to put a lot of controls in the environment, right? That allows us also to think about how do we expect applications and workloads to run inside containerized environments as well. So given that we're expecting there to be very few people on the network, and that we're expecting most of our deployments to be zero-touch provisioned, right? No people involved in the provisioning of workloads. That gives us some flexibility in how it is that we're able to detect any potential threat that may hop on our network. So if a hacker happens to get on our networks, we have a really good understanding of what we're expecting those workloads to do and where they're expected to connect. And we have the microsegmentation so that if anything shows up that's not supposed to be there, we can detect that threat pretty quickly. That is fundamentally the strategy around that we're taking to secure workloads in the environment.
I think zero trust, identity access management, understanding identity, understanding that supply chain, hardware supply chain, whatever it is, I think that's pretty important in securing the foundations of it. And automation, right? Not human hands. The less human hands touch things directly without controls or without automation, the more likely something's going to go wrong. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And it ties in with the automation element as well, which I know the CSPs are dying to do everywhere. Given that we may not just have CSPs, maybe there are other ISVs, independent software vendors, maybe we have network equipment providers as well, listening in. So any final words of wisdom as we wrap up here to the CSPs, ISV, and maybe even the hyperscalers who are listening? I know they're pretty good usually about security practices, so you would hope they are. But any words of wisdom given the learnings and your experience at Rakuten Mobile, and obviously your extensive experience at other industries prior to that? What would be your words of wisdom to share?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I would start with all systems are inherently not secure, right? I think that as we grow into our environments, we need to take some responsibility for how we secure our systems. And that has everything to do with our design principles, our go-to-market strategies, and what we need to do to attract customers and deliver services. And my job as a CISO is to make sure that we're able to achieve those results as economically as possible. Maybe not economically, but we need to be able to achieve those outcomes consistently and do it in a way that we're able to protect our customers' data, our customer environments, our availability of our services, et cetera. And that really, if we have standards that can help us along, that's great. However, we need to, again, take responsibility and make sure that we're designing into our environments the security practices that are going to give us the security posture that we want, whether that means that we need to increase our security posture past the standards or not. We need to be able to make those decisions. Given that, in telecom, I think it's somewhat new. I was listening to an acquaintance of mine, I would say maybe a friend of mine, about hackers. And one of the things he was saying was that hackers have been learning how to hack cloud platforms for years and years. So they're somewhat ahead of the telecom space. And Rakuten Mobile, I think we're ahead of that as well, right? Because we're taking a lot of industry learnings from the military and big tech and big finance, and we're applying it to secure our environments. And because those environments have been dealing with these hackers for years and years and years and years as well. So given that the maturity that's been happening outside of telecom with respect to the products and capabilities to secure environments and the hackers and how they've been attempting to exploit vulnerabilities inside the cloud space, consider that as a ISP or someone that's working with telco companies to secure the environment. Look at what other folks have been doing. Look at what these other industries are doing. I think telecom is maybe the last mission critical industry to adopt the cloud. That's great. We can learn from the other industries, and I think we should. But I definitely feel like we should be pursuing those 5G use cases, the business opportunities that are present there, and not waiting for the standards to catch up, and delivering those new use cases into our customer environment so that we can build successful businesses.
Very valuable lessons and words of wisdom here. And so, John, I'd like to thank you again for making time and sharing with us what you guys have done at Rakuten Mobile and Rakuten Symphony in terms of securing your cloud platform and your architecture. Hopefully, for the listeners, there are some lessons here that you can take away and use yourselves.
Yeah, and if anyone needs to contact me via LinkedIn or go to our website, there's a security section. We have a guide there to help people make some progress in securing their cloud infrastructures.
Excellent. Very useful resource. So encourage you guys to take a look at it and download it. Thank you again, John.